Hi everyone. Hello Sean. Hello Shoshana. Hello Linda.
Hello, Rav.
Hello Ida. How's it everyone? Who's else with us? Marky, how's it?
Hello,
How are
Rabbi.
you? Hello Janet. How are you? Is everyone okay? Good.
Baruch Hashem.
Good.
Rav,
Mark?
I think tonight I'm going to read from the Samson Refuel Hirsch Chumash, because the writing in the art scroll is very, 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 very small. So if you don't mind, I'm going to translate from the Refuel Hirsch one.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Hello Stephen, how are you?
Good, yourself.
Thank you. So Rabotai, what?
Rabbi Levy, can we do tonight share for the Refuah Shalema for Batya Bat Nechama?
רפואת בתיה בת נחמה, רפואה שלמה בכל איבריה ובכל גידיה. A special welcome to our friend Dr. Les. They're doing all the work behind quietly. Dr. Les, thank you for joining us. Who's there? Stephen. Hello Stephen, how are you? Good. So Rabotai, before I'm going to mute everyone, I just want to say a few announcements and then we'll start the show. So number one, remember on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, we do live reading of Echa by Hazan Adam Davis. 7 o'clock on Wednesday night, I will send a message. Okay, tonight we're going to speak about Tisha B'Av, and then Be'ezrat Hashem, I'm going to go also through the Megillah. Let's see how much we're going to manage to achieve. So let's start the show. Mark going to read. I'm going to read in English. Then our friend Mark going to read it in English. השיעור יהיה לעילוי נשמת מרדכי בן רחמה, אסתר בת משה הלוי, אסתר קדן בת קציה, נשמתם תהיה צרורה בצור החיים, ולרפואת לירון בן שרית, ראובן בן עליה, שמואל בן מיכל, ליאורה בת מרים, וכל שאר חולי ופצועי עמו ישראל בכל מקום שהם. Brian, hi, how are you? I'm going to mute everyone.
Oh, good, thank you.
Okay, we're starting the show, רבותיי. בעזרת השם נעשה ונצליח, והשם עלינו ברחמיו ירוויח. So we are very close to Tisha B'Av. We are already in the week שחל בו, שבוע שחל בו תשעה באב. And Hazal tell us something very interesting in the Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit in page 26, folio 2, right on the top. בתשעה באב נגזר על אבותינו שלא ייכנסו לארץ. I'm going to translate it just now. הרב הבית בראשונה ובשנייה, נלכדה ביתר ונחרשה העיר. And we have to understand that all of those things that the Gemara mentioned, what is that, how is that inflicting to us regarding Tisha B'Av? So let's start with the first thing that Hazal tell us in the Gemara. The Gemara tell us that בתשעה באב נגזר על אבותינו שלא ייכנסו לארץ. And Hazal in the Midrash explain in the year 2449 for the creation, Akadosh Baruch Hu have a decree on the Jewish people that they will spend 40 years in a wilderness because they listen to what the Meraglim say. That means when the spy came from Israel and delivered the report, they cried. Akadosh Baruch Hu then make the decree in the year 2449 years for the creation that the Jewish people not going to enter immediately to Eretz Israel. Hazal in the Gemara in Masechet Gitin in page 57, folio 2, tell us that Nebuchadnezzar was the Babylon king that he destroyed the first temple, the first Bet HaMikdash, and that happened 580 years before the Common Era. Remember. The second thing that happened, that Hazal tell us that Titus, the wicked Titus, destroy the Bet Hamikdash, the second Bet Hamikdash, 70 years after the Common Era. The one was before the Common Era, the one was after the Common Era. In the year 132 for the Common Era, the great city of Beitar, some people say Batel, okay, the Roman, okay, managed to conquer that city and killed everyone, male, female, children, elderly, everyone. That was the end of the coup of Bar Kokhba against the Roman. In the year 133 for the Common Era, the wicked Roman actually destroyed Jerusalem completely, destroyed Har HaBayit, and not only that destroyed Bet HaMikdash and Har HaBayit, they make it completely flat, nothing left. That's what the Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit in page 26, folio 2 tell us. What's happened in a history to the Jewish people? I'm going to bring two main samples that you most probably all know. In the year 1290, okay, for the Common Era, it was the first exile of the Jews from England. In Tisha B'Av, in the year 1390, that means 100 years later, it was the decree of the Spanish king Fernando and his wife, the king Isabella, to exile all the Jewish people from Spain. By that, they put the end for the golden era of the Jewish people in Spain, as you all know, and that all happened in Tisha B'Av. So now we can understand why our sages made that day as a special day, Dafka Tisha B'Av, to fast in Tisha B'Av. Now, a bit of introduction to Megillat Eicha before we start explaining. The word Eicha. The word Eicha, we have to understand what is its meaning. The Megillat Eicha, number one, been written by the prophet Jeremiah. He wrote it. He wrote it during the time of the first temple. And how we know that Jeremiah wrote it? If you take the word, the acronym of the word Eicha, it stands for Ani Yirmiyah Kohen Amsoti. Jeremiah, the Kohen, the priest, the Amsoti. Megillat Eicha been written twice. After the first time that it's been written by the prophet Jeremiah, the king Yehoiachin, he was a Melech Yehuda and he burned it, and Hazal then have to write it again. It's been written again. Hazal tell us in the Midrash that 40 years before the destruction of the temple, HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling Yirmiyah that he have to write the Megillat Eicha. And the main reason for it, that people will see what's going to happen during the destruction, and maybe they'll do atonement and they'll do tshuva, and then not going to be a destruction. So that's the main reason that we're reading Eicha Dafka on Tisha B'Av. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll start to understand what it says. So in the first chapter, in verse 1, it says like this: Eicha yashva bodeda. Hazal tell us, the prophet Yirmiyah tell us, Eicha yashva badad ha'ir rabati. Am hayta ke'almana rabati bagoyim, sarati b'mdinot. Hayta lemas.
Oh, how the city that was once so populous remained lonely like a widow. She that was great amongst nations, a princess amongst the provinces, has become a tributary.
Okay, Eicha. What it means, Eicha? The word Eicha. Say Yonatan ben Oziel, not Rabbi. Yonatan ben Oziel is a higher level when you mention the first name and you don't call him Rabbi. He said that the word Eicha already been mentioned in the book of Bereshit, in the beginning of the creation. And he said that, and he bring in the comparison between what happened to Adam and Hava to what happened that the prophet Yirmiyah speak. We know that after Adam and Hava sinned and eaten from the tree of knowledge, HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually exiled them from Gan Eden. They've been exiled from Gan Eden. Then Adam HaRishon feel like he was naked and he disappeared because he was embarrassed. Hazal said that the Torah tells us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu kolem ayeka, where are you? The word Eicha and the word Ayeka, it's the same spelling. And the comparison between them say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu exiled Adam and Hava from Gan Eden. Adam and Hava been exiled from Gan Eden. The same thing happened to the Jewish people after they sinned. HaKadosh Baruch Hu exiled the Jewish people from Eretz Israel, and then Bet HaMikdash been destroyed. The same comparison. Another idea, we know that one of the reasons that Bet HaMikdash got destroyed during the Second Temple, it was because baseless hatred. And Hazal say, if you take the acronym of each letters from the first word, Echa Yashva Bada Da'ir, you'll get something extraordinary. It's Aleph, Yud, Bet, Hey. The acronym of those letters will bring us Eiva. Eiva in Hebrew, it's hatred. That means that the main reason that the second Bet HaMikdash got destroyed for baseless hatred. Sinat Hinam. How much we have to work on it. And then the verse say, Hayta ke'almana, and she was like a widow. What does it come to teach us? Hazal tell us that the word Hayta, the gematria, the numerology of Hayta is 420. We know that after the destruction of the Second Temple, because the Second Temple was exist for 420 years, while the First Temple was exist for 410. That means after 420 years, the city of Jerusalem became like a widow, as we see that Bet HaMikdash since then until today, it's not exist. The Jewish people in exile, most of the Jewish people is in the diaspora, not in Eretz Israel. Hazal tell us from here, you learn that Ve'ayta ke'almana, that the city of Jerusalem will be for many years like a woman that she's widow without a husband. And we know that the Jewish people compared to a woman and HaKadosh Baruch Hu compared to the husband. It's come to tell us that the city of Jerusalem will be like a widow. And now we understand what the prophet Jeremiah spoke about. So when we read the Megillat Eicha, we just have to remember all of those hinting that the prophet Jeremiah tell us. What do we have to be careful? Let's move to verse 2. And in verse 2, it says something very interesting. If you look at verse 2, it says like this. Bachot tifke balayla v'dim'ata alehea en la melahem mikol ohavea kol re'ea bagduba hayu la le'oivim.
She weeps bitterly in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. She has no comforter amongst all her lovers. All her friends have betrayed her, and they have become her enemies.
And here we have to understand, Yonatan ben Uziel asked a very, very, very valid question. And he said, tell me, it says, Bachot tifke balayla, that she cried at night. And I don't understand. People cry only at night. People cry also during the day. Why is the prophet have to tell us that the city of Jerusalem cried at night? Do you understand the question? It's a very, very, very nice question, because crying doesn't not necessarily have to be at night. So to understand that, explain Yonatan ben Uziel like this. And he explained that from here we see that there is a hint to what the Torah tells us in Sefer Bamidbar in chapter 14 and verse 1. ויבכו העם בלילה ההוא. What is it referring to? I'll just refresh your memory. Chazal tell us that here it's referring to what's happened to Bnei Israel. When the spy came from the land of Israel and given the report about Eretz Israel and the spoke Lashon Hara on the land of Eretz Israel, the nation cried. HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked the Jewish people, why are you crying? Why are you crying? I promise you a land, Eretz Zavat, Halab, Udvash, the land of milk and honey. Why are you crying? HaKadosh Baruch Hu got upset and said to them, you cry for no reason, I will give you a reason to cry. And that happened on Tisha B'Av, that the nation cried, Bnei Israel cried, and that was the punishment for generation. That for generation and generation will sit and will mourn for the destruction of the temple. Where do we learn that? By that it said, "Vayivku balayla hu." You cry for no reason, I'll give you a reason to cry, say HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because Bnei Israel cry for no reason, for report that was false, HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished us until today we're crying on Tisha B'Av night. And that's what the verse come to tell us. Let's move to verse 3. And there it says something very interesting. And here it's one of the idea that the prophet hint to us, why is the first temple got destroyed? Let's read it, and Be'ezrat Hashem will explain. גלתה יהודה מעוני ומרוב עבודה, היא ישבה בגויים ולא מצאה מנוח, כל רודפיה השיגוה בין המצרים.
Yehuda went into exile because of affliction and great servitude. She settled amongst heathens and finds no rest. The pursuers have all overtaken her in the midst of her distress.
In Midrash Yalkut Shimoni on Megillat Eicha, he asked the question, why does it say that Galta Yehuda Me'oni? Judah have to exile with poverty. Why dafka poverty? Oni. What does it mean, Oni? That's Midrash, remember Yalkut Shimoni. And Chazal explained the word Oni come to remind you, Lechem Oni. Lechem Oni is the matzah. Chazal explained to us that the matzah is a poor man bread. What does that connect one to each other? Chazal explained that during the first temple was the Jewish people didn't eat matzah on Pesach. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished the Jewish people to go to exile. That's the main reason that we go on exile. One of the main reasons that we go on exile during the destruction of the first temple. So you learn from here, say Chazal in Yalkut Shimoni, that one of the reasons that the Jewish people gone to exile because they didn't keep Hag Pesach. They didn't celebrate Hag Pesach and they didn't eat matzah on Pesach. How important is it to eat matzah on Pesach? And then it says, Umerov avodah yeshva bagoyim. Chazal explained that here the prophet come to tell us and come to remember that the word avodah, okay, that because before the destruction of Bet HaMikdash, the first temple I'm talking to, the Jewish people was worshipping idol. And the word avodah is avodah zarah. That means that the prophet Jeremiah come and telling the Jewish people, remember you're worshipping idols, be careful. But they didn't listen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu unfortunately put the Jewish people into exile, and we know that the first temple got destroyed. So from here we learn two things. That one of the reasons that the first Bet HaMikdash been destroyed, it's because Avodah Zarah. Number two, that they didn't eat matzah on Pesach. Chazal adding up that was Gilui Arayot, that was immorality, and etc. But we learn from here, from the two Midrashim, that Chazal bring that the most important was Avodah Zarah, that means idol worshipping during the first temple, and the second one was that they didn't eat matzah and Pesach. How important is it? Okay, let's move on to verse 4, and there in verse 4, let's see what it said, what the prophet tell him. Darkei Tzion, avelot, מבלי באי מועד, כל שעריה שוממים, כהניה נאנחים, בתוליה נוגות, והיא מרלה.
The roads of Zion mourn, because none come to the appointed season. All her gates are desolate, her priests moan. The maidens grieve while she herself suffers bitterly.
Why is the prophet have to tell the Jewish people that they suffer bitterly? What is he trying to tell us here? So the commentary explain, one of the commentary, the idea is that the prophet speak to the Jewish people and tell them that you're going to have such sorrows that you cannot understand what sorrow is going to come. And they didn't understand, because we say that during the destruction, we know one thing. When a person see other people suffering, he get comfort. He said, I'm not suffering myself. Other people suffering with me. But during the destruction, Chazal tell us that the Torah was so horrible, so strong, so difficult, until that each one felt like he is himself have his own trouble, no one else. That means Chazal tell us that each person, although that they was all together in exile, all together during the destruction, each one felt individually the trouble like it's on himself. And that's what it say, Vemarla, and it's better to her. What it mean better to her? That she herself, that means each person individually feel it like he's only one there, no one else suffering, only him. And that's what the Chazal tell us that happened to the Jewish people during the destruction. We'll move on now, with your permission, to verse 6. And let's see what it says here and what we can learn from it. והיו צריה לראש, אויביה שלו, כי אדוני הוגה, על רוב פשעיה, על עליה, הלכו שבי לפי צער.
And from the daughter of Zion has gone all her splendor. The princes have been departed exhausted before her pursuers, like hearts that find no pasture.
Okay, I read the wrong one, but it doesn't make a difference. Mark read the right one, I read the wrong one. I read number 5 again. But let's understand what's happening here. Hayu saria ke'ayalim. What it means, her ministers was like a buck. Why dafka buck? We have to understand. But we have to understand what Chazal explaining to us, what the prophet Jeremiah tried to hint to Bnei Israel before the destruction. Chazal explained that when there is a heat wave, usually the sheep, the buck, what they do, they gather together and they form a round angle and they all put their head down. And the main reason is because they believe that the sun, they can't see the sun, so the sun doesn't hit them. That means by that they think that they're protecting themselves from the sun, the heat. Chazal explained that that's what happened with the minister at that time before the destruction. The leaders of the Jewish people put their head down. That means that they didn't try to rebuke the Jewish people and to tell them, listen, you're wrong. Instead, they put their head down like nothing happened. He said, from here, you learn something very important. You know what's happened here? When the leader doesn't rebuke and doesn't say that you're wrong, and you have to correct your deeds, we'll see that after that come trouble and disaster. Say Hazar. Especially use the word trouble and disaster. Because what's happened to the Jewish people, it was a complete disaster, that they have to be exiled from Eretz Israel and the destruction of the temple. But we also have to understand why did the prophet use ayal. Ayal is what we call a buck. Why dafka he point that kind of animal? Why not any other animal? Hazal explained that one of the character trait of the buck in his nature is full of compassion and mercy. Even if you see a little cub, although that the cub in general, the lion usually hunt the buck, he will have a mercy on him and he will nurse him. He said that the Jewish people are comparing to the buck, that full of mercy and compassion. But when the Jewish people ignore mercy and compassion, that means that they don't look after each other for the spirituality and the physical need of someone else, that will lead to disaster. And that's why the prophet here coming and speaking to the Jewish people and telling them, if you're not going to look one after each other, if you're not going to prove one each other, you're not going to support one each other, not spiritually and not physically, that will lead to one thing, absolute disaster. And that's what's happened to us. Let's move to verse 8. And let's try to understand what Hazal tell us in verse 8. In verse 8, Hazal tell us like this. Het hat'a Yerushalayim, al ken lenida hayta, kol mechabedea izilua, ki ra'u ervata, gam hi ne'enha vateshev ahor.
Jerusalem sinned grievously, therefore she became impure. All who honored her despised her, for they have seen her shame. Moreover, she herself moans and turns away.
Okay, here the prophets say that the Jewish, when he speak to Jerusalem, he speak regarding the Jewish people, that she sinned sincerely. But in Hebrew it says, het hat'a. And many of the Mefarshim ask, why did he have to say het hat'a? Obviously she sinned. Why you have to repeat it? Why you have to tell us that she sinned, like double sin? What's happening here? So the Mefarshim explain from that he say het hat'a, and not enough that he say hat'a Yerushalayim. Okay, it's come to teach us that the Jewish people sin double, and they've been punished double, but v'nahamu bekiflayim, and they will be comfort double. What is the Midrash try to tell us? We have to understand. So the explanation is like this. Hat'u bekiflayim, what it means that the sin double, that in the month of Tammuz, the city of Jerusalem being conquered by the enemy during the first temple and the second temple. So we explained that there is different opinion. If you remember, one in Yud Zayin Betamuz, one say in Yud Betamuz, different, no meshane. But during the month of Tammuz, okay, during the month of Tammuz, the enemy managed to break the walls of Jerusalem and to penetrate into Jerusalem. And that's what it means, hat'u bekiflayim. The sin was double. And now, what it means, laku bekiflayim, that they've been punished double. That in a month of Av, twice happened that Bet HaMikdash been destroyed and Tisha B'Av. the first Bet HaMikdash and the second Bet HaMikdash got destroyed on 9 B'Av. And that's what it's come to tell us, Laku Bekiflaim. The punishment was double, that twice the Bet HaMikdash got destroyed in 9 B'Av. And what it means, Nahamu Bekiflaim, it said, the Midrash tell us, it come to comfort us. It's come to tell us that for the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will comfort us, okay, for all of that pain and agony and sorrow that we have to suffer. Hazal tell us that the months of Tammuz and the months of Av will be Yamim Tovim. The entire months of Av, 30 days of Av, gonna be Yom Tov. Imagine, festival for 30 days, not work, eating, drinking, study Torah with no problem for 30 days. It's amazing. Be'ezrat Hashem that we should merit to see it. There is other explanation. What does it mean? Hat'u bekiflaim, that they've been sin double. Other commentary explain that there is here two different sin that caused for the destruction of the first temple and the second temple. The first temple been destroyed, Ben Adam Lamakom. What it means, Ben Adam Lamakom? Because the Jewish people was worshipping idols and immorality, didn't keep the mitzvot, didn't eat matzah on Pesach. That's a sin between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and us, Ben Adam Lamakom. But was other sin. What it means double? That during the second temple, it was Ben Adam Lahavero. That means that was baseless hatred. That means that one man to his fellow friend was different division. No one accepted others. I belong to that sector, you belong to that sector, and the hatred just got wider and wider, and people couldn't understand that. So come Hazal and tell us that the main reason that you sin double is because you didn't only sin Ben Adam Lamakom, that means between man and Almighty, you also sin Ben Adam Lahavero. And Rabotai, until today, we didn't fix that sin Ben Adam Lahavero. How much hatred there is. Baseless hatred for nothing. Because you belong to that sector, you better than him. No, I always bring the analogy that in the Israeli Defense Force, there is all different units. There is the tanks, there is the Navy, there is the Air Force. They're all serving underneath one umbrella, and it's called the Israeli Defense Force. Lehavdil, lehavdil. All of that we're worshiping HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you a sector of Hasidut, if you a sector that belong to X, the sector that belong to white, if you're Sfaradi, if you're Ashkenazi, what difference is it make? As long that we're worshiping HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the sake of heaven. How do I do it? Each one have a different way to worship. Each one have a different mission to do. We have to respect one each other. We don't have to agree with one each other, but we have to respect one each other. And that's what's the main reason that Sinat Hinam until today, we don't have Bet HaMikdash. And we still like a widow that Bet HaMikdash not been built. Then the Pasuk continue and it says, Lenida Haita, that the city of Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem is like a woman that she's impure, Nida. What it mean, Nida? It's come to tell us something very important. We know that a husband and a wife, there's certain time of the year, they can't be together. Sorry, certain time of the month, not the year. Certain time of the month, they can't be together. Why? Because the woman is impure until she go to the mikveh. Hazal come and tell us here that the prophet Jeremiah tell the Jewish people, you are the woman. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the husband. Because your sin, Israel, the Jewish people have to understand, because they sin, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the city of Jerusalem and made us like we impure. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot come closer to us. It means that the husband and wife cannot be together because the wife is not pure. Come Hazal and tell us, that's what the prophet tried to tell us. That from then until today, HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot be born to us. Why it cannot be born to us? Because the sin that we're doing. And Hazal tell us something very extraordinary. דור שלא נבנה בו בית המקדש, כאילו חרב בו בית המקדש. That means the generation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't build Beit HaMikdash in his generation, that generation considered the same like the generation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu destroyed Beit HaMikdash. Destroyed Beit HaMikdash. Rabotai, the other day I received a video from Israel. I wanted to share it with you. And the video been made by the Irgun Hidabrut. Irgun Hidabrut, it's a religious TV or whatever you want to call it, that is doing tshuva, they're doing kiruv. And the president of that movement, he said that he saw that it was an article on Israeli TV that there is a group of people in Israel that declare a fight against the Almighty. Rabotai, that's exactly the same what's happened in the Tower of Babel. In the Tower of Babel. And the Zohar HaKadosh tell us something extraordinary. The Zohar HaKadosh said before the Mashiach come, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will reincarnate all of the wicked people. If it's Nebuchadnezzar, if it's Nebuzaradan, Titus, Hitler, Yamach Shemo V'Zichro, Hamenitsky and his friends, whoever you want. But also the generation of the flood, the generation of the Tower of Babel, he's going to reincarnate them before the Mashiach comes. And he's going to give them a chance to do tshuva. And we see that those generations coming now in our days, Rabotai, we're very close to Mashiach. How long will it take? I'm not a prophet and I'm not son of a prophet, that I can tell you. But every person that have his eyes and a little bit of chokhmah, a little bit of seichel, will look what's happening in the world with this corona. That's showing us that we're close to Mashiach. We are there. We're just waiting. It's the same like the 9 months when a woman gets ready to deliver the baby. And just on the 9 months, when the pain getting stronger and stronger. And that's when we know that soon the baby gonna come out. And that's when the Mashiach gonna come out. What's happening in the world is not normal. The world going ballistic. A little virus make the entire world shut. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu created that. Who else can do something like this? Whoever thought that the air gonna be clean? Who thought that airplane not gonna fly? Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do. Rabotai, the book of Eicha come to teach us and come to try to tell us a bit how much we have to do the counting of the deeds, to do repentance. I'm speaking to myself. I'm not speaking to you. You all tzaddikim. You, each one of you is a tzaddik. I'm talking to myself. How much work I have to do. Number one, it's Ahavat Israel. And to leave the baseless hatred, the faribol, the lashon hara. And maybe that's one of the reasons that I repeat that we don't have shul. HaKadosh Baruch Hu don't want us to talk in shul lashon hara, and he shut it down. It's never happened in history that shul will be closed for close to 6 months. And we don't know if we're going to celebrate Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Does that ever happen? People die to be in shul and Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. We can't. Rabotai, we're very close to Mashiach. The Mashiach is on the doorsteps. We just have to welcome him. The only way to welcome him and to make it easy for us, that each one will take on himself. Number one, no more faribol. No more baseless hatred. That's what caused the destruction of the second temple. The second one is Avodah Zarah. Many people think that Avodah Zarah is to worship idols. Not necessary. Avodah Zarah can be anything that a person desire against halacha. Anything that is against halacha and you desire it, that's Avodah Zarah. And Hazal tell us that that was one of the things that the first temple got destroyed. The other thing that was, as we know, is immorality. And also Hazal brought that say lechem oni. What it mean lechem oni? That they didn't eat matzah on Pesach. So from here, Rabotai, if we do counting of the deeds and we'll ask ourselves, how can we bring Mashiach? Each one will take on himself a little bit to do more what he usually do. If you say 1 Tehillim a day, say 2 chapter of Tehillim a day. Be nice to your friend. Look after your fellow friends. Don't hate your friend. Have a relationship not only with your friend, also at home. And look, and not faribol. Try to make good and not worse. But I'm going to give now time for question if anyone would like to ask. Any question, Rabotai? Sorry.
David Yisrael, Rabbi Levy, bring a Mashiach.
Yeah, that's Ahavat Israel. That's the motto of Hasidut Chabad. Chabad have that, and Hazal promoted, and Hasidut Chabad promoted big, and they say Ahavat Israel exactly. And with that, we can bring Mashiach.
So yesterday on the Shabbat saw the Shabbos Chazon. You say the vision of the Beis Hamikdash.
Nachon.
Shabbat Chazon.
Yesterday was Shabbat Chazon, the prophet of Yeshayahu ben Amos, that he tell us Chazon Atzamot Eveshot, that he tell us what's going to happen. And next week we're going to read Nahamu Nahamu Ami, comfort, comfort my nation. Yeah. But to get comfort, we have to change our deeds. And if we change our deeds, we don't have to suffer. Because if HaKadosh Baruch Hu can bring a little virus that no one can see and shut off the world,
yeah, that's true.
He can bring us Mashiach without suffering. And that's I think that the Jewish people suffered enough. We suffered enough. We don't need any more suffer. Each one of us individually have enough sorrows and worried from here to next year.
So open the shul, just get the Beis Hamikdash now, everybody. Yeah. Open the shul, just wait for the shoes, just wait for the Beis Hamikdash. One step in.
Yeah.
So Rav, can I just mention something? Here in Yerushalayim,
yes.
Because
it's so beautiful to hear your voice, Dr. Lev.
So it's good for your wonderful cheer. So here's something very positive in the streets in Yerushalayim, in Beit Vegan. So we have a minyan outside, like 2 buildings away from where I stay, where you have Hasidim, you have Litvisha, you have Mizrahi all together, all dabbling together, in the street. And we bring out the Sefer Torah, and you really see the Achdut. So, you're right. We sing Chavdei HaMashiach. We're in the footsteps of the Mashiach. It really is.
Before the woman deliver a baby, we know that the pain getting stronger and stronger until she can't cope anymore. And Hazal tell us, when a woman deliver a baby, megi'ah le'sha'arei mavet, she's on the gate, okay, before she losing her neshama. So Hazal tell us there is two kind of way that the Jewish people can redeem. We can be redeemed ba'ita, the Zohar say. Or, what it mean ba'ita? In a time. Or be'ahishena. Ahishena, it's quicker. And Hazal tell us, and the Zohar explained that we should daven, that we should be be'ahishena. What it mean ahishena quick? That we're not going to suffer the pain and the agony like a woman giving birth. And 5 years ago, I'll tell you a story. 5 years ago, I gone on holiday. My friend invited me to go to his place on holiday. And I have a kidney stone. And I tell you, the pain is, I don't know how to explain to you. When he saw me, he said to me, I'm quite dark, I'm not a lighty. He said to me, listen to that, Les. He said to me, you were so light, you couldn't believe. Wow. He said to me, that pain is like a woman delivering baby. Wow. So every time that I think about it, about the Mashiach coming and the pain and the delivering baby, I put it together in a way. And believe me, we don't want to be there. We don't want to feel pain. This nation been prosecuted enough during the history. This nation suffered. How many Israeli mother cry for their soldiers? Every time that a Jewish soldier die. How many people been burned alive? How many people been killed, been slaughtered, been killed, been gassed? Whatever you want to call it, it's enough. We don't need pain. We have to change our deeds. We have to live together. I'm happy to hear that in your neighborhood, you have such a great Ahavat Israel, Hasidim, Litvakim, Sfaradim. May we should all take that example and live together. Be'ezrat Hashem. Any other question, Rabotai, regarding Tisha B'Av or anything else?
Rabbi? Yeah.
I'm listening, yes.
Hi, Dr. Les, it's nice to see you again. I was just thinking what you said is amazing because maybe Beit Vagan is a connection of Beis Hamikdash to the Gan Eden. And it's happening there, huh?
Hazal tell us, by the way, Hazal tell us, where is Pitho Shel Gan Eden? Where is the gate to Gan Eden? Hazal said that one of the Ptahim of Gan Eden, the main Petah of Gan Eden, is in Hebron, Ma'arat HaMachpelah. Hazal continue and say, where is Pitho Shel Gehenom? Where is the gate to Gehenna? And I explain now why I'm bringing it. They say at Gei Ben Hinnom. Gei Ben Hinnom, if you know Jerusalem a little bit, it's by the Cinematheque. That's called Gei Ben Hinnom. And there is there, that's the door to Gehenom. So we all hope that we're going to go to Jerusalem. And in Jerusalem, we can take two ways. We can go to Beit Vagan, where there is Ahavat Hinam. And if we, Haz v'Shalom, we go to Gei Ben Hinnom, we know who lived there. Our cousin lived there, right there. They lived there. We don't want to be with them. Let's rather go to a doctor. Let's live in Jerusalem, and we'll see Yerushalayim Abnuya, please God, in our days, speedily in our days, and we'll have Ahavat Israel, and one gonna love each other. And we have to understand, yes, we're not equivalent one to each other. But we have to accept one thing, that I'm not better than you, and you're not better than me. And then gonna be no jealousy. Because if I think that I'm better than you, that means already I think that I'm jealous of you. And if you think that you're better than me, you're jealous of me. Why you think that you're better than me? But if there is no competition, and there is no better, and we all equal, and we accepting that we just have different ideas, different way to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as long that we follow the mitzvot of the Torah. And we don't become like the reform, the changing the Torah. There is each way a different way to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Zohar tell us, and Ari HaKadosh explain, that there is different pathway to daven. A matter of fact, the Zohar said, and the Ari HaKadosh bringing it, if I'm not mistaken, in Shara Kavanot, if I'm not mistaken. And he said that there is different pathway that all the tefillot go up to heaven. So what different? As long that you're on the right pathway and your tefillah going up, that's what's count. How do you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu if it take you a half an hour or it take you an hour to daven? What difference does it make? But as long that we don't talk in shul, and as the Zohar says something that I'm frightened actually to say it, but because I have that pain that I don't daven in minyan, I'll mention it. The Zohar say, if you see a shul that get distracted, a shul that been destroyed by a Gentile, you know why they got a permission to destroy it? Because the Jewish people in that shul destroyed. Well, how did they destroy it? By speaking in shul. That's the Zohar HaKadosh. So by that we're not keeping the holiness, we've been isolated from shul. And if most of the Rabbonim will put, I'm not speaking to myself, put the emphasis on not to talk in shul, we wouldn't be out of shul today. We will be davening in a minyan in a shul. And that's maybe what HaKadosh Baruch Hu tried to give us. That's missing, to daven together, to open the ark, to read from the Torah. And that's what we're missing. To make us miss that we learn not to talk in shul. Maybe that's one of the messages. Any other question, Rabotai? No question. So again, I would like, first of all, to take the opportunity to thank each one of you for joining the show. To say again, thank you to Dr. Les, that doing everything behind the scene, that loading all of those shiurim into the internet, that everyone can benefit from it. I would like to remind everyone on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, Hazan Adam Davis going to read for us Megillat Eicha with a special tune. Please God, everyone going to join us, and we try to make it a special evening that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will hear us and send us Mashiach Tzidkenu speedily in our day. Amen. Ken Yeh Ratzon.
Rob,
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
good night. Keep safe and look after
Good night,
yourself.
Rob.
Good night. Bruchim to you. All the best.